Thank you very much, Manfred, and thank you for coming back to this session on air pollution and health and how nutrition interact with it. First, I have a few slides, background information on air pollution. I will go rapidly over it because most of you have already heard many details. And then I will come to a few nutrients where there is already some data that it can decrease the deleterious effect of air pollution. So there is no doubt that air quality is actually key to maintain human health. We have heard about the deleterious effect of the particulate matter, and the WHO has put out some guideline. So the small one, PM2.5, should be below 10 microgram per cubic meter. The PM10 should be below 10 microgram per cubic meter on an annual mean basis. So you have also seen this map, the satellite map about PM2.5. As you notice that in most of the populated area, India, China, also in Africa, there is quite high level of PM2.5. However, you think maybe in the US it is fine, but actually if you do zooming, then you have another scale and you see that most of the, for example, East Coast and also the West Coast, the populated area are also above recommendations. So actually in the world, about 80% of the population live in an area where the PM2.5 are above the WHO recommendations. So as we heard this morning, this has an impact on health, also on cost. The first impact, acute impact on respiratory function, lung cancer later on, and some chronic effect on cardiovascular disease. More recently, it has been shown that it is linked with the development of metabolic disease like diabetes and also cognitive decline in elderly. So what is the effect of PM? So we have heard that for the large one, you can deal with it. It can be sneezed out, swallowed, so most of it will actually stay in the upper respiratory tract. But smaller one will travel down to the alveoli, and where they can cause harm by inducing oxidative stress and inflammation, and they will also disturb the autonomous nervous system. So this is a simplified slide showing the three mechanisms you heard also this morning. One is an indirect effect on the lung, leading to inflammation in the lung, spillover of the inflammatory signaling, chronic inflammation in our body, and the development then of arteriosclerosis or vascular problem. The other one is a more direct effect on the autonomous nervous system, which leads to perturbation of the heart rhythm. And then some particles, very small one, can enter also the bloodstream, where they can lead to damage to the vascular wall and to inflammation, leading to endothelial dysfunction and vascular problem. So, as mentioned here, particulate matter air pollution has been linked in many epidemiological studies with increased risk of morbidity and mortality. So some people are more vulnerable than others. So for example, elderly, individuals which have a pre-existing respiratory problem, a cardiovascular problem, and also children which are growing up very rapidly. So why actually is nutrition linked to particulate matter and air pollution? One just has to take care of pollution. Why should you look at nutrition? And all of you know that nutrition plays a key role in having an effect on the risk factor for chronic disease. So an adequate nutrition can help you prevent disease like cardiovascular, diabetes, and many recommendations. As we see here, a different picture from different regulatory bodies Maybe the one from England is the most simple one, with 1/3 of fruit, 1/3 of grain, a lot of vegetable, and some proteins. However, and then numerous recommendations have been done. Increase your fiber, increase your fruit and vegetable, increase sugar, decrease sugar intake, salt intake, saturated fat intake, eat less calorie, and have an adequate intake of micronutrients, as we heard this morning, and also PUFA. But also we heard that this was very difficult to put through and has only been followed by very few people. And we also know that some very specific nutrients have a beneficial effect on some disease, like for example PUFA on cardiovascular disease. We also know that nutrition plays a key role in regulating the adaptation of our body to a stress, an environmental stress, like for example air pollution. So certainly in the context of air pollution, you better have a good nutrition so that you avoid a double hit, one from the negative impact of air pollution and one from the negative impact of bad nutrition. So, but there are also some nutrients where there is data showing that it can have a positive impact on the deleterious effect of air pollution. This is what we call the EBCDAF solution, standing for vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, and omega-3 from fish oil. And for this, I will show you a few studies. So, but first, maybe for refreshing, something about heart rate variability. So heart rate variability is a marker and is able to assess the integrity of the autonomous nervous system. It can be measured in different ways. So you can do either a time analysis. In this case, it is a standard deviation, mean standard deviation over a specific time between the normal beat to beat. There can be also some frequency analysis, high frequency and low frequency analysis for heart rate variability. The high frequency are related to the parasympathetic activity and the low frequency to the sympathetic activity. And the disturbance in those activity is indicative of a stress on our body. A low heart rate variability has been correlated with increased cardiac mortality and morbidity. And heart rate variability, besides the cardiovascular effect, also is an indicator of the body stress and disease. It also declines with age. So here a study in Mexico carried out by Fernando Holguin, which presented this morning. And this is in a sensitive population, vulnerable population of elderly. They measure the heart rate variability and show that for high frequency and low frequency, there is a significant decrease of heart rate variability. And this effect is actually more pronounced for the subjects which are hypertensive, so more sensitive to air pollution. Another study looking at fish oil. So maybe some of you are familiar with omega-3. Omega-3 have been studied for several decades from their effect on cardiovascular disease. They are able to decrease lipid like triglyceride, and they have also effect on heart function, having effect on heart rate, on arrhythmia. And there are a few studies which also show that they have an effect on heart rate variability. This is one of them. Again, in an elderly population, they were supplemented with fish oil and soy oil. And as you can see, all the individual supplemented with fish oil improved in all parameters related to heart rate variability. Total heart rate, high frequency, low frequency, time analysis. So fish oil was able to significantly increase heart rate variability, so indicating a decrease of stress in the body. Now, what about with particulate matter? This is another study where they were supplemented with 2 grams for 5 months. And during the pre-supplementation period, you can see that the individual on control and on fish oil had a significant decrease in heart rate variability for the high frequency and for the time analysis. However, those supplemented with fish oil, at the end of the period, there was no significant decrease anymore in heart rate variability. And there was a significant difference between before and after. There was also some effect of the soy oil, but this did not reach significant. So fish oil significantly decreased the negative impact of P2.5 on heart rate variability in elderly. So as I mentioned, heart rate variability is related to stress. So what about oxidative stress? So one was also looking what is the effect of fish oil on oxidative stress marker in a population of elderly. And you see that there is a significant increase in the superoxide dismutase. The superoxide dismutase is an enzyme which is able to neutralize a radical in our body. And there is also a significant increase in glutathione level. So glutathione is a key antioxidant in our body. So basically those individuals which were supplemented with omega-3 had less oxidative stress in their body. So now another study, this time in elderly and in a closed environment. So it is in a chamber. They were supplemented with 3 grams for 4 weeks. They were put in a chamber and received either filtered air or air containing particulate matter at a high concentration, around 300 micrograms. And what they observed is that the ratio of high frequency to low frequency, this ratio is indicating of a disturbance of the autonomous nervous system, is significantly decreased in the control group, but this did not happen in those which were supplemented with fish oil. After stopping the exposure to the particles, this of course returned to normal and stayed normal with the fish oil. So omega-3 protected in this case clearly against the deleterious effect of particulate matter in healthy subjects. So now to come to vitamin B. Vitamin B, which are part of the folate cycle or one carbon metabolism. We have heard a little bit about methylation this morning. And there is a study in elderly, a sensitive population. As expected, for each increase in particulate matter, there was a significant decrease in heart rate variability. They have also looked at the genotype of this population. We heard also that we are not all equal, so gene matters. And this is also what this study showed. So one of the key enzymes in the one carbon metabolism is the methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, which needs a cofactor called B2, vitamin B2. And this is a rate limiting step, and the genotype CT and TT were more sensitive to air pollution than the subject which has genotype CC. So genotypes also and gene matters. So now to come to the vitamin B, they looked at the intake of the vitamin B, which play a role in the one carbon metabolism. You can see here that all the individuals with a low intake of B6, B12, folate, methionine had a significant decrease in heart rate variability. This was, however, not the case in those with a high intake of B6, B12, or methionine. and also was less decreased with those with a high intake of folate. So again, here vitamin B seems to reduce the oxidative stress and the stress on the body induced by particular matter. And this has been shown later on in a follow-up study on some oxidative stress marker. Now let's come to vitamin D. Vitamin D is a key vitamin for our bone. It is mainly produced by exposure to the sun. So 80 to 90% of our requirement actually comes from sun and conversion of 7-dehydrocholesterol to vitamin D3. And only 10 to 20% comes from our diet. And determinant are, of course, the latitude, the sun exposure, and in this context, weather and air pollution play a key role. And there are several studies which looked into this. This is a study in Belgium comparing an urban and a rural area. As expected, here is the sun exposure index, which is an index of how much of the skin is exposed and how long. And then you see that it increases linearly with exposure to sun. But what they noticed is in the urban area, for example, to have an optimal vitamin D level, you need about twice as much exposure to the sun as compared to the rural area, indicating that in the cities, the UVB are blocked and you cannot synthesize vitamin B as efficiently as in the rural area. These are a study in Iran comparing Tehran with another city which is less polluted. And they observed that in Tehran, for example, there's a significant decrease in vitamin D as compared to a less polluted city. This is a study in India, comparing in the same city two sites, one highly polluted site and one with low pollution. And in the highly polluted site, there was significant decrease of vitamin D. So air pollution can increase your risk of being deficient in vitamin D. And then the only thing which actually can help is taking some supplement. Now to come to vitamin C and E. Vitamin C and E are two key antioxidants in the human body. One is for the hydrosoluble compound, and the other is for the vitamin E for the liposoluble compounds. And there have been a study, this is in individuals which were living near a plant which is producing energy by burning coal. And they looked at a panel of biomarkers related to oxidative stress, so non-enzymatic and enzymatic marker. And what they observed, all the individuals which were exposed to this coal emission, they had increased lipid oxidation, increased damage to the protein, decreased glutathione level, protein thiol level, and decrease in alpha-tocopherol. And those markers were all corrected by supplementation with vitamin E and vitamin C. So regarding the enzymatic oxidative stress marker, there are a number of enzymes which are part of our endogenous antioxidative protecting system, like superoxide dismutase, as I say, can neutralize the enzyme. It was increased, and it was not slightly increased also with antioxidants, so there's no change. Our catalase, which was also increased, was normalized, indicating of less stress. Glutathione peroxidase, which was disturbed by decreasing the reductase, also was normalized. So most of the enzymes of this antioxidative defense system were normalized by supplementation. So those supplementation with antioxidants are able to improve our antioxidative defense system. So to summarize, PM2.5 is a global problem. It is not going to be solved easily, I think, as we heard also with the windmills this morning, the only way really to solve it is actually to change our energy sources. And so if you want to do something for yourself to protect, you better have a better nutrition. There are some ingredients where there is already some data. For example, omega-3 PUFA and vitamin B, which have been shown to reduce heart rate variability, which means the stress imposed on the body, and also a marker which is related to cardiovascular disease. There are effects of E and C on oxidative stress. And for vitamin D, to avoid deficiency, you can take some supplement of vitamin D. So, but there is probably more than this. So beyond this, probably various combinations of nutrients may prevent the impact of particulate matter on different aspects of health. There are many, as we heard, effects on health. And maybe there's not one combination, but different combinations which can have protective for different health impacts. With this, I would like to conclude, and thank you very much for your attention.
Daniel, thanks a lot.
You mentioned about your Nutritional solution. I don't remember the acronym.
B, C, D, E, F. So it's just the alphabet.
Yeah. One of the common phytochemical nutrients in food is polyphenols.
Yeah.
Why polyphenol wasn't excluded or wasn't?
So okay, for the time I have also some slides actually for polyphenols. So for example, resveratrol is well known to have an effect on endothelial dysfunction. It improves our vascular function. We heard that air pollution could have a negative impact, so you could also imagine that, for example, resveratrol or other polyphenols which have an effect on vascular function may also have a protective effect. So this is what I mentioned at the end. Probably different combinations may have different impact on different health problems.
Yeah. Another question for maybe it's a general one about the synergy between these nutrients. Any study done in this regard to see the interaction between more than one nutrients?
No, that's actually missing. Yeah. The only thing which is on the impact on the level of different vitamin B, but really to look at the synergies between ingredients, nobody has looked into this.
Okay, thank you.